Sarah's hands shook so violently she could barely hold the crying newborn against her chest. The truck stop diner felt like it was closing in, every eye watching her fail as a mother, while her 5-year-old daughter stared at the empty plate between them with eyes too old for her age. $12 left in the world. Formula or food. Save her son or feed her daughter. The choice no mother should ever face. Then Emma whispered the words that would shatter 3 hearts in one night. "Mommy, if we eat now, will baby Michael be hungry tomorrow?" And in that moment, even the most dangerous man in the room felt his world stop cold. If you believe kindness can come from the darkest places, hit that subscribe button right now and stay with us until the end of this story. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We want to see how far hope can travel tonight. The baby wouldn't stop screaming. Sarah pressed 3-month-old Michael closer to her chest, rocking him in that automatic way mothers do when their bodies remember what their minds have forgotten. That everything used to work. That she used to be able to provide. That there was a time when her milk came in strong and her son didn't cry from hunger that pierced through truck stop walls like an accusation. "Mommy, is Michael sick?" Emma's voice cut through the crying, small and worried in a way that made Sarah want to scream herself. 5 years old. 5 years old and already carrying fear like a backpack too heavy for her shoulders. "No, baby, he's just tired." The lie tasted bitter. Emma knew it too. Sarah could see it in the way her daughter's face fell, the way she looked down at her own hands folded in her lap like she was trying to make herself smaller, less of a burden, less hungry. The diner smelled like grease and coffee, and the kind of cheap hope that comes with New Year's Eve decorations that have been up too long. Tinsel sagged from the ceiling. A cardboard Happy New Year sign hung crooked above the register, its edges curled and sad. Outside, January cold pressed against the windows, turning them foggy with condensation that dripped down like tears. Sarah had exactly $12.37 left in the world. She'd counted it 3 times in the truck before coming inside, once in quarters and dimes spread across the dashboard, once in her head, adding and subtracting, and trying to make the math work differently. Once in her hands, the bills worn soft from too many desperate counts, the coins warm from her pocket. Formula was $8.19 at the gas station next door. She'd checked. That would last maybe 2 days if she stretched it, watered it down just a little, ignored the guilt that came with diluting her son's only nutrition. That left $4.18. The menu on the table mocked her. Kids meal, $5.95. Grilled cheese, $4.75. Side of fries, $2.25. Nothing worked. Nothing added up. Nothing would feed them both. "Ma'am?" The waitress stood beside their booth, her name tag reading Linda above a small pin shaped like a coffee cup. She was older, maybe 60, with hair dyed an unnatural shade of red and eyes that had seen too many women like Sarah counting change and swallowing pride. Just water, please, for both of us." Linda's expression shifted, something between pity and recognition that made Sarah's stomach clench harder than hunger ever could. "Honey, you sure? Water's fine." Sarah's voice came out harder than she meant. "Thank you." Michael's crying escalated, that desperate newborn wail that signals real distress, not just fussiness. Other diners glanced over. A man at the counter frowned. A couple in the corner booth whispered to each other, their faces arranged in that particular expression of judgment that people wear when they think poverty is a personal failing. Sarah stood up fast, too fast, the world tilting slightly from standing too quick on too little food. "I'm going to the restroom. Emma, stay here." "Mommy!" "Stay here, baby. I'll be right back." The bathroom was small and smelled like industrial cleaner trying to hide something worse. Sarah locked the door and leaned against it, Michael still screaming against her chest. She tried to nurse him, knowing it wouldn't work, knowing her body had given up producing enough milk weeks ago when the stress and the hunger and the grief had dried up everything inside her. He latched anyway, desperate, and she felt the pull of him trying to get something that wasn't there. The failure of it, the physical proof that she couldn't even do this one basic thing, broke something inside her chest. 6 months. 6 months since David died. 6 months since the construction site accident that took her husband and left her with medical bills from a complicated birth, funeral costs she'd borrowed money to cover, and 2 children who needed her to be stronger than she'd ever been asked to be. She'd tried. God, she'd tried. Applied for assistance and got lost in paperwork that required addresses she didn't have anymore. Worked 2 part-time jobs until the daycare costs ate everything she earned. Sold everything worth selling. Wedding ring, TV, David's tools that she'd held onto for weeks because letting them go felt like losing him again. Now she lived in her truck, a 2003 Ford Ranger with a camper shell that leaked when it rained and turned into an icebox when the temperature dropped. She'd parked it behind this truck stop because the manager hadn't kicked them out yet, because the bathroom had running water, because she could pretend for a few hours that they had somewhere to be instead of nowhere to go. Michael was still crying, that hungry cry that no amount of rocking would fix. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. 35 years old, but the woman staring back looked 50. Dark circles, hollow cheeks, hair unwashed for days, pulled back in a ponytail that did nothing to hide how she'd given up on things like appearance and dignity. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with one hand, still holding Michael with the other. Final notice. Electric bill, $347 past due. She almost laughed. Electric bill for an apartment she didn't live in anymore, for an address that belonged to a landlord who'd changed the locks when she was 3 weeks late on rent. The bill didn't know she was homeless. The system didn't care. She deleted the message. Then she opened her contacts and scrolled to a name she'd been avoiding for weeks. Mom. Her finger hovered over the call button. Her mother would help. Probably. Maybe. If Sarah was willing to hear "I told you so" and "you should have married someone stable" and "David was always reckless" and every other piece of advice that came 6 months too late to matter. She couldn't do it. Not tonight. Not with her son screaming and her pride already shredded and the weight of her failure pressing down so hard she could barely breathe. Sarah put the phone away. She looked down at Michael, his face red from crying, his tiny fists clenched in that way newborns have of demanding a world that makes sense, a world where mothers can feed their children and promises mean something. "I'm sorry," she whispered to him. "I'm so sorry, baby." She thought about calling child services. The thought had been circling for days now, getting louder, more insistent. They would take the kids somewhere safe, somewhere with food and heat and people who could actually provide. Emma and Michael deserved better than a mother who couldn't even afford formula. The thought made her physically sick, but it wouldn't leave. Maybe that was love. Maybe real love was knowing when to let go. She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, and walked back out to the table. Emma was drawing on a napkin with a crayon Linda must have given her. She looked up when Sarah approached, and the hope in her face, the pure, uncomplicated trust that Mommy would fix everything, nearly destroyed what was left of Sarah's composure. "Is Michael better?" He's okay, sweetie." Sarah sat down. Michael had exhausted himself into hiccuping sobs, that aftermath of crying that's somehow worse than the crying itself. She held him against her shoulder, patting his back, going through motions that felt increasingly pointless. Linda came by again, setting down 2 glasses of water without being asked. "Honey, I know it's not my place, but you're right." Sarah kept her voice level, polite. "It's not your place." Linda's face tightened, but she nodded and walked away. Emma took a sip of water, trying to make it last, trying to pretend it was filling. She'd gotten so good at pretending lately. Pretending she wasn't hungry. Pretending the truck was a fun adventure.
Pretty digging Daddy was just away at work, instead of buried in a cemetery plot Sarah couldn't afford to visit.
"Mommy, can I tell you something?" "Of course, baby." "Jenny at daycare, before we had to stop going, she said poor people don't deserve nice things." Emma's voice got quieter. "Are we poor people?" The question landed like a physical blow. Sarah opened her mouth, but nothing came out. What was she supposed to say? That they weren't poor, they were just temporarily struggling? That things would get better soon? That this was all part of some plan she couldn't see yet? All lies. Emma deserved better than lies. "We're going through a hard time right now," Sarah finally said. "But that doesn't mean we don't deserve nice things. It doesn't mean we're worth less than anyone else. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, but her face said she didn't. Not really. How could she? She was 5 years old and living in a truck and drinking water for dinner on New Year's Eve. The door chimed and cold air rushed in. Sarah felt it before she saw it, that shift in atmosphere that happens when danger walks into a room. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they changed texture, became more careful, more aware. 3 men entered, then 4 more, then 3 more after that. Leather vests, tattoos covering arms like sleeves of stories written in ink and regret. Boots that hit the floor with deliberate weight. Hair long or shaved, beards thick and untrimmed, eyes that had seen things and done things and carried knowledge that sat heavy in their expressions. Hell's Angels. The patches on their vests made it clear. The way they moved made it clearer. This wasn't a costume or an affectation. This was identity, lifestyle, family, threat. Sarah's heart started racing. David had told her stories.
He'd worked construction with guys who'd been in clubs, guys who'd gotten out, guys who'd warned him that bikers weren't the friendly rebels movies made them out to be. They were dangerous, territorial, unpredictable. "Don't make eye contact," he'd said once. "Don't engage. Just stay invisible." Sarah looked down at her water glass, at Emma's napkin drawing, at anything except the men filling the diner with their presence. They took up the large booth in the back corner, spreading out, laughing too loud, calling for Linda with voices that expected immediate service. Emma was staring. "Don't look at them," Sarah whispered. "But Mommy, that man has a big beard like Santa." "Emma, don't look." Michael started fussing again, that pre-crying sound that meant they had maybe 30 seconds before another meltdown. Sarah rocked him, whispering nonsense comfort words that did nothing, checking the time on her phone even though it didn't matter, even though they had nowhere to be and no reason to leave except the crushing weight of staying. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until a new year that would probably be exactly like the old one. "Ma'am?" A different voice this time, younger, male. Sarah looked up. The diner's manager stood beside their table, Bill, according to his name tag. Mid-50s, balding, with the kind of face that had probably been friendly once, but had been hardened by years of dealing with difficult customers and tight margins. "I'm going to need you to order something or move along. We're getting busy." Sarah glanced around. The diner was half empty, except for the bikers. We ordered water." "Water's not a meal. This ain't a waiting room." His voice wasn't cruel, just tired and inflexible. "You want to sit, you need to buy food." Heat rushed to Sarah's face. Shame, anger, humiliation, all mixing together until she couldn't tell which was which.
"We're just resting for a few minutes. We'll leave soon."
Leave now or order.
Those are your options.
Emma's hand found Sarah's under the table, small fingers squeezing tight. She knew. Even at 5, she knew this was bad, knew they were being kicked out, knew her mother was failing again.
"Please,"
Sarah heard herself say, hating the word even as it left her mouth.
"It's cold outside, and my baby—"
"Not my problem. You want charity? There's a church 3 blocks down. They do meals on Wednesdays."
"It's Tuesday."
"Then I guess you'll have to wait."
Bill pulled out his order pad with exaggerated patience.
"So what's it gonna be? Food or leaving?"
Sarah's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. $12.37. Formula or food? Michael or Emma? There was no right answer.
"We'll take—"
Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. Tried again. "We'll take 1 kid's meal, grilled cheese, and milk instead of soda. $5.95 plus tax. That would leave her enough for formula if she skipped the tax and counted exact change and prayed the gas station register didn't round up." "That's for the little girl?" Bill gestured at Emma.
"Yes."
"And what about you?"
"I'm not hungry."
Uh-huh. Bill's expression said he'd heard that before, from other mothers in other booths counting other coins. "And the baby?"
"He's fine."
"Doesn't sound fine." Bill glanced at Michael, who was working himself up to another crying session. "Kid needs to eat."
"I'm handling it."
"Are you?" The question hung there, judgment wrapped in 3 syllables. From the back booth, one of the bikers laughed at something, the sound too loud, too alive, a sharp contrast to Sarah's dying dignity. Bill was still standing there, waiting.
"Just the kids' meal,"
Sarah said firmly.
"Please."
He wrote it down, shaking his head slightly, and walked away. Sarah counted out exact change before he could come back. $5 in bills, 95 cents in quarters, dimes, nickels. She stacked it neatly at the edge of the table, a small monument to mathematics and desperation. That left $6.42 for formula. Not enough. She'd have to water it down more than she already was. Michael would still be hungry. He'd still cry. But at least Emma would have food. At least her daughter would have 1 full meal before another day of pretending water was enough.
"Mommy?"
Sarah looked at Emma, really looked at her. When had her daughter's cheeks gotten so hollow? When had her eyes gotten that dark shadow underneath? When had she started looking like a child in one of those charity commercials with the sad music and the number to call?
"Yes, baby?"
Emma's voice dropped to a whisper, like she knew this question was dangerous, like she understood that some things hurt more when said out loud.
"If we eat now, will we be hungry tomorrow?"
The world stopped. Everything. The diner noise, the biker laughter, the New Year's Eve countdown playing on someone's phone, Linda refilling coffee, Bill punching orders into the register, the hum of the highway outside. All of it went silent in Sarah's ears. Emma wasn't asking about the meal. She was asking about tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. She was asking if this was temporary or permanent, if hope existed, or if this was just how life would be now. If her mother could promise anything beyond the next few hours. She was asking questions no 5-year-old should have to ask. Sarah couldn't answer. Her throat closed completely. Tears she'd been holding back for hours, days, weeks, broke through like a dam giving way. She covered her face with one hand, still holding Michael with the other, shoulders shaking with sobs she tried desperately to silence.
I'm sorry, Mommy.
Emma's voice pitched higher, panicked.
I'm sorry, I won't ask anymore. No, baby, no.
Sarah forced the words out between gasps.
You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't.
But she couldn't finish. The grief, the shame, the bone-deep exhaustion of trying and failing and trying again, it all poured out in the middle of a truck-stop diner while her daughter watched her fall apart and her son cried from hunger she couldn't fix. The diner had gone quiet again. That terrible kind of quiet where everyone is pretending not to notice, pretending not to hear, giving privacy that feels more like isolation.
Everyone except one person. In the back booth, a man had gone completely still. His fork hung suspended halfway to his mouth, forgotten. His eyes, dark and hard and carrying decades of their own stories, were locked on Sarah's table with an intensity that would have terrified her if she'd been capable of noticing anything beyond her own breaking. His name was Marcus Stone, though the patch on his vest read Reaper, and for the first time in 8 years, he was remembering exactly why that nickname had never felt quite right. Marcus Stone hadn't thought about his daughter in 3 hours, which was a record. Most days she lived in his head like a ghost, 8 years old forever in his memory, even though she'd be 13 now, a teenager he wouldn't recognize if she passed him on the street. But that question, that small, devastating question from a child who looked nothing like his Katie, brought it all back with the force of a sucker punch.
Daddy, if you leave, will you still love me tomorrow?
His daughter had asked him that the last time he'd seen her. Custody hearing. His ex-wife's lawyer painting him as dangerous, unstable, a ticking time bomb wrapped in leather and PTSD. The judge had looked at him like he was a problem to be solved, not a father fighting to stay in his child's life. And Katie, 7 years old, sitting in that waiting room, had asked if his love had an expiration date. He'd promised her it didn't. Promised he'd be back. Promised tomorrow would come and he'd still be her daddy. That was 2,847 tomorrows ago. He'd counted every single one. Marcus set his fork down carefully, aware that every man at his table was watching him now. His club brothers knew that look, the one that meant something had shifted, that the Reaper they knew was temporarily offline and the man underneath was surfacing. "Boss?" That was Johnny, his sergeant-at-arms, voice low and cautious. Marcus didn't answer.
He was watching the woman at the front table try to put herself back together while her world fell apart, watching her daughter's face cycle through confusion and fear and guilt, watching that newborn cry with the kind of hunger that doesn't understand why the world isn't working right. He'd been that hungry once. Different kind of hunger, maybe, but the same emptiness. "Reaper," Johnny again, more insistent. "You good?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "I'm really not." He stood up. The movement brought immediate attention. Bikers didn't just stand up without reason. The other tables in the diner tensed. Linda, the waitress, froze mid-pour. Bill, the manager, looked up from the register with an expression that said he really didn't need more problems tonight. Marcus walked toward the front table. Each step felt heavier than the last, like he was walking through water, through time, through every bad decision that had led him to this moment, where a stranger's pain felt like his own failure reflected back at him. Sarah didn't notice him at first. She was too focused on trying to breathe through her tears, trying to comfort Emma, who was now crying too, trying to hold Michael steady, even though her arms were shaking. Emma saw him first. Her eyes went wide. She shrank back against the booth, pressing herself against her mother's side. Marcus stopped a few feet away, suddenly aware of what he must look like to this child. 6'2" of scarred leather and bad intentions. Beard more gray than black now.
tattoos covering both arms, some military, some club, some from nights he didn't remember making permanent. The Reaper patch on his back, skull with a scythe, the image that had given him his road name. He probably looked like... Marcus glanced at Emma, who was staring at him with the same mixture of terror and curiosity kids get around things they've been told are dangerous. But I'm making it my business anyway.
Look, I don't want any trouble.
Neither do I. Marcus pulled out the chair across from them, the one Emma wasn't sitting in, and lowered himself into it slowly. Sarah's whole body went rigid. I just want to buy your daughter dinner. Both your kids, actually. Maybe get the baby some formula. The word formula made Sarah's face crumble again, just for a second, before she rebuilt it.
I can't accept that.
Why not?
Because I don't know you. Because you're...
She stopped herself, but they both knew what she'd been about to say. Scary? Marcus offered. Dangerous? Not the kind of person you want around your children?
I didn't say that.
You didn't have to. He leaned back, trying to make himself smaller, less threatening. Impossible at his size, but he tried. Look, I get it. You see the vest, the patches. You think Hell's Angel means hell on earth. And sometimes you're right. But not tonight. Why? Sarah's voice came out harder than he expected. Why do you care? Is this some kind of... I don't know what this is, but I don't need pity. It's not pity. Then what is it? Marcus looked at Emma, really looked at her. 5 years old, with worry lines starting to form. Too thin, too aware, too much like Katie had been before he'd lost her. It's a second chance, he said quietly. For me, not you. Sarah frowned, confused. I don't understand. You don't need to. Marcus pulled out his wallet, old and worn, held together more by habit than leather at this point. Linda! The waitress appeared so fast she must have been hovering nearby, waiting to see if this interaction would turn violent or weird, or both. Yeah, Reaper? Bring them a real meal, whatever they want, and call over to the gas station, have them send over some formula. The good stuff, not the store brand. Diapers, too, whatever size the baby needs. Linda's eyes widened. Reaper, that's gonna be... I know what it's gonna be. Put it on my tab. You don't have a tab. Then start one. He pulled out 3 20s and set them on the table. This should cover it. If it doesn't, come find me. Sarah was shaking her head before he finished. No, I can't. Yes, you can. You don't understand. I understand more than you think. Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the one that came with memories he usually kept locked down. I had a daughter. Have a daughter. Katie. I lost custody 8 years ago. PTSD from Iraq, anger issues, the whole veteran disaster package. The judge decided I was too dangerous to be a father. Sarah went very still. Last time I saw her, Marcus continued, the words coming out before he could stop them. She asked me if I'd still love her tomorrow. I said yes. I meant it, but I haven't seen her since, so maybe she stopped believing in tomorrow. Or maybe she just stopped believing in me. The diner had gone quiet again, but this was different. People were listening now, not avoiding. Your daughter asked a different question, Marcus said, looking at Emma. But it's the same fear. Will tomorrow come? Will we still be okay? But I'm trying to do a good thing right now. Does that make sense? Emma thought about this with the seriousness only children can bring to moral questions.
My daddy said bikers are mean. Your daddy was probably right about some of us. But not you? Not tonight, little darling. Not tonight.
Sarah was crying again, but differently now. Not the desperate sobs from before, but something quieter, more confused, like she didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified or both.
Why? She asked again. Why are you doing this?
Marcus looked at his hands, scarred knuckles, tattoos fading with age. Hands that had held weapons and bikes, and his daughter when she was small enough to fall asleep on his chest. Because 8 years ago, I needed someone to help me, and nobody did. Because I failed at being a father, and I can't fix that. But maybe I can fix this. Because that question your daughter asked, his voice caught. Because no child should have to ask that. Ever.
Sarah covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back more tears. Linda was still standing there, tears running down her own face now, mascara making dark tracks. "So what's it gonna be?" Marcus asked. "You gonna let me do this? Or are you gonna keep trying to carry this alone?" Sarah looked at Emma, then at Michael, who had finally cried himself into exhausted sleep against her shoulder.
I don't even know your name.
Marcus. But everyone calls me Reaper.
That's a terrible name for someone trying to convince me you're safe.
He almost smiled. Yeah, I know. What's yours?
Sarah. This is Emma and Michael.
Nice to meet you, Sarah. Marcus stood up, pulled out another 20. Linda, add pie to that order. Kids like pie, right? Kids love pie, Linda confirmed, wiping her eyes. Then pie for everyone. He looked back at Sarah. I'm gonna go back to my table now. You're gonna eat. You're not gonna worry about the bill. And tomorrow we'll figure something else out. Deal? Sarah opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I can't just take your money. You're not taking it. I'm giving it. There's a difference. Marcus started to walk away, then turned back. And Sarah, your daughter asked if you'd be hungry tomorrow. The answer is no. I'm gonna make sure of that. He walked back to his booth where his club brothers sat in various states of confusion and surprise. What the hell was that? Johnny asked as soon as Marcus sat down. That was me paying a debt I've owed for 8 years. To who? To my daughter. To every kid who's ever been hungry. To myself. Marcus picked up his fork, then put it down again. His food looked obscene now, abundant and wasteful. Johnny, call Melissa. Your ex-wife? Boss, you haven't talked to her in 8 years. I know. Call her anyway. Tell her I want to talk to Katie. Set up a meeting, whatever it takes. Reaper, you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. At the front table, Linda was taking Sarah's order while Emma pointed excitedly at menu items she'd probably never thought she'd get to taste. Sarah was still crying quietly, but she was also ordering food, accepting help, letting herself be saved, even though Marcus could see how much it cost her pride. Michael woke up and started fussing again, that pre-cry sound of a hungry baby. Marcus stood up again. Where you going now? Johnny sounded exasperated. Gas station's taking too long. I'll get the formula myself. He walked out into the January cold without his jacket, barely feeling it. The gas station was just across the parking lot. He grabbed formula, the expensive kind, the one that said closest to breast milk on the label, and diapers, and, on impulse, a stuffed animal. A small rabbit, soft and white and innocent. The cashier rang it up. $43. Marcus paid with cash and walked back across the parking lot, his breath making clouds in the freezing air. When he walked back into the diner, Sarah was eating. Actually eating, not just pushing food around. Emma had ketchup on her face and was talking animatedly about something that made her mother smile, really smile, for the first time probably all night. Marcus walked to their table and set the formula and supplies down without a word.
Sarah looked up at him, and her eyes were so full of gratitude and confusion and fear and hope that he had to look away. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know how to thank you." "You just did." He set the stuffed rabbit in front of Emma. "For you, little darling. Every kid should have a friend." Emma's eyes went huge. She looked at her mother for permission. Sarah nodded, tears falling again. Emma grabbed the rabbit and hugged it so tight Marcus thought she might crush it. "I'm gonna name him Angel," she announced.
Because you're like an angel, but scary. Several bikers in the back booth laughed at that. Marcus felt something crack in his chest, something that had been frozen for 8 years. "That's a good name," he managed. He started to walk away for the second time when Sarah's voice stopped him.
"Marcus?"
He turned.
"Tomorrow," Sarah said quietly. "You said we'd figure out tomorrow. What did you mean?"
And there it was. The question he'd been avoiding. The promise he'd made without thinking through whether he could keep it. "I meant, I'm not letting you go back to sleeping in your truck," Marcus said. "I meant I know people who can help with jobs, housing, childcare. I meant I've got resources and connections and a whole motorcycle club full of men who've been where you are."
"Why would they help me?"
"Because I'm asking them to. And because most of us remember what it's like to be hungry and desperate and one bad day from giving up completely." From the back booth, Johnny called out, "Boss is right. We've got your back, ma'am." Other voices joined in, gruff and loud and surprisingly sincere. Sarah looked overwhelmed, like she'd stumbled into some alternate reality where bikers were guardian angels and strangers kept promises.
"I don't understand any of this," she said.
"You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept it." Marcus pulled out his phone. "What's your number? I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Make sure you and the kids are okay. Then we're gonna figure out next steps." Sarah recited her number in a daze. Marcus saved it under Sarah, tomorrow. "Get some rest," he told her. "Real rest, not truck rest." "Linda, you got any motel recommendations nearby?"
"There's a decent place 2 blocks down," Linda said. "Clean, quiet, $70 a night."
Marcus pulled out his wallet again.
"Marcus, no,"
Sarah started. 2 nights, Marcus said, handing Linda money. "Give her the key. Tell them to bill me for any extras."
"You can't keep doing this,"
Sarah protested. "Watch me."
"This is too much.
"It's not enough." Marcus looked at Emma playing with her new rabbit, at Michael sleeping peacefully with a full stomach for probably the first time in days. "It's not nearly enough, but it's a start." He walked back to his table one final time. His food was cold. He didn't care. He couldn't have eaten it anyway, not with his throat tight and his chest aching and memories of Katie flooding back so hard he could barely breathe. "You okay, boss?" Johnny asked quietly. "No," Marcus said honestly. "But I'm better than I was an hour ago." He pulled out his phone and did something he hadn't done in 8 years. He called his ex-wife. It rang 4 times. He almost hung up. Then,
"Hello?"
her voice. Melissa. Still the same, even after all these years. "It's Marcus." Silence, long and heavy and full of history.
"Marcus? Jesus Christ, I thought you were dead."
"Not yet." He watched Sarah gathering her things, Emma clutching the rabbit, both of them looking like they couldn't quite believe their luck had changed. "Mel, I need to talk to Katie. I know I don't have a right to ask. I know it's been 8 years. But I need to tell her I'm sorry. I need to tell her I kept my promise."
"What promise?"
that I'd still love her tomorrow. I need her to know that tomorrow came. 2,847 of them. And I loved her through every single one. More silence. Then, quietly, "She asks about you sometimes." Marcus closed his eyes. "She does?" "She's 13 now, Marcus. She wants to know her father. She wants to know if you're okay. She wants..." Melissa's voice broke. "She wants to know if you still love her." God, yes. More than anything. Always. "Then maybe it's time to tell her that yourself." And just like that, the door he thought was locked forever cracked open just enough to let light through. Marcus heard himself breathing into the phone, each inhale shaky and unfamiliar. He hadn't cried in combat, hadn't cried at his father's funeral, hadn't cried when the judge read the custody decision. But hearing that his daughter still thought about him, still wondered, still cared, that broke something loose. "When?" he asked. "When can I talk to her?" "Marcus, we need to do this right. I can't just hand the phone to a 13-year-old girl who hasn't heard your voice since she was 5. She needs preparation. She needs..." I know. He forced himself to think clearly. "I'm not trying to rush this, Mel, I need her to know I didn't forget. I need her to know tomorrow came." Melissa's voice softened. "Next weekend. Come to the house, Saturday afternoon. I'll talk to her first, make sure she wants to see you. And if she doesn't, then you'll have to accept that." A pause. "But Marcus, I think she will. I think she's been waiting for you to come back." The call ended, and Marcus sat there staring at his phone like it held the answers to questions he'd stopped asking years ago. Johnny was watching him with concern. "Boss, you look like you've seen a ghost." "I think I just did," Marcus said quietly. "My own ghost. The father I used to be." Across the diner, Sarah was standing up, carefully gathering Emma and Michael. She caught his eye and mouthed, "Thank you," one more time before heading toward the door. Marcus stood up fast, nearly knocking over his water glass. "Sarah, wait!" She turned, Emma holding tight to her hand, the white rabbit clutched in the little girl's other arm. "The motel Linda mentioned. You're going there tonight, right? Not back to your truck?" Sarah's face flushed. "How did you know about the truck?" "I didn't know for sure, I guessed." He walked closer, keeping his voice low so Emma wouldn't hear. "But I've seen enough people living out of vehicles to recognize the signs. The way you're dressed in layers, the bags under your eyes that come from not sleeping horizontal, the fact that you came into a diner on New Year's Eve with $12 and a newborn." Sarah's jaw tightened. "I'm doing my best." "I know you are. That's why I'm not letting you go back there tonight." "You can't tell me what to do." "You're right. I can't." Marcus pulled out the motel key Linda had given him. "But I can give you this. 2 nights, already paid, heated room, real bed, hot shower. You can say no if you want, but then you're refusing help your kids need, not just you." It was a low blow, and he knew it. Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. "That's not fair." "Life's not fair. But tonight, for once, it's tilting in your favor. Take it." Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, I'm sleepy. Can we sleep in a real bed? Please?" Sarah looked down at her daughter, then at Michael, who was making soft sleeping sounds against her shoulder. The fight drained out of her. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you." Marcus pressed the key into her hand. "I'll call you tomorrow. We'll talk about next steps." "I don't understand why you're doing this." "You will, eventually." He crouched down to Emma's level.
You take care of your mama tonight, okay? And that rabbit. He's counting on you. Emma nodded seriously. I will. I'll keep everyone safe. They left, and Marcus watched through the diner window as Sarah loaded her kids into an old Ford Ranger with a camper shell. Exactly as he'd suspected. He saw her hesitate before driving toward the motel, saw that moment where pride almost won over necessity. But she went. That was something. All right, Marcus said, turning back to his table where 8 of his club brothers sat watching him like he'd sprouted wings. Emergency meeting, now. Here? Johnny looked around the diner. Boss, we usually do church at the clubhouse. Here, now.
Because by the time we get to the clubhouse, I'll have talked myself out of what I'm about to do. The men pulled their chairs closer, forming a tight circle. Linda brought coffee without being asked, then stayed nearby like she knew something important was happening. Marcus laid it out plain. That woman, Sarah, she's living in her truck with 2 kids. Husband died 6 months ago, drowning in medical debt and funeral costs. Lost her apartment, lost her job, down to her last $12. And her 5-year-old daughter just asked if eating tonight meant starving tomorrow. The table went quiet. These were hard men who'd done time and fought wars and survived things that broke weaker people. But children suffering hit different. What do you need from us? That was Tommy, their road captain, a Vietnam vet with grandkids of his own. Everything, Marcus said. I need Rico to talk to his landlord about that vacant unit above the garage. I need Danny to ask his wife if she's still hiring at the daycare. I need someone with construction contacts to find this woman real work, not under-the-table nonsense that disappears when she needs it most. And I need all of us to dig deep tonight, because formula and diapers aren't one-time purchases. You're asking us to adopt a stranger, Johnny said, but there was no judgment in his voice, just clarification. I'm asking us to be who we tell ourselves we are, when we're drinking at the clubhouse and talking about brotherhood and loyalty. I'm asking us to prove that those words mean something beyond the club. Rico spoke up. My landlord's my uncle. The unit's been empty for 3 months. I can get her in there by next week. First month free if I explain the situation. I'll talk to Maria about the daycare, Danny added. She's always looking for good people to help with the kids. If Sarah's desperate enough to live in her truck for her children, she'll work hard. Maria respects that. Tommy crushed out his cigarette. I've got a buddy who runs a commercial cleaning company. Not glamorous, but it's steady, pays decent, and they're always hiring. Night shifts might work if she's got childcare during the day. One by one, the men started offering solutions. Phone numbers, connections, resources that individually meant little, but collectively could rebuild a life. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. These men, these dangerous, tattooed, criminal-adjacent men, were proving what he'd always believed but rarely saw. That being broken doesn't mean you're useless. That survival sometimes requires accepting help. That family isn't always blood. We do this quiet, Marcus said firmly. No club colors, no making her feel like she owes us, no publicity, no social media heroes hip nonsense. We help because it's right, not because it makes us look good. Agreed, Johnny said, and the others nodded. Linda had been listening to everything. She wiped her eyes with her apron.
You boys want to know something?
Her voice cracked.
15 years ago, I was sleeping in my car. Lost my husband to cancer, lost my house to medical bills, lost everything. A trucker named Dale found me crying in this very parking lot. Bought me breakfast, got me an interview here, co-signed my apartment lease until I got on my feet. She pulled out a worn photograph from her apron pocket. This was Dale. Died 5 years ago. Heart attack. But before he passed, he made me promise something.
What's that? Marcus asked.
He said, Linda, you pay it forward. You watch for the ones who are drowning, and you throw them a rope before they go under. Because somebody did that for you, and somebody probably did it for me. And that's how the world works when it's working right.
She tucked the photo away.
So whatever you boys are planning, you count me in. Sarah gets free meals here whenever she needs them.
And I'll keep my eyes open for others who need throwing a rope. Marcus stood up and did something he'd never done before. He hugged Linda, this 60-something waitress with dyed red hair and a heart bigger than the Texas sky. Dale was a good man, he said.
So are you, Reaper. You just forgot for a while.
The bikers left the diner an hour later with a plan. A real plan, not just money thrown at a problem. Rico would handle housing. Danny would work the daycare angle. Tommy would set up the job interview. Marcus would coordinate everything and make sure Sarah didn't slip through the cracks. But as Marcus walked to his bike, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Then something told him to pick up. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a small voice, terrified and desperate.
Mr. Marcus, this is Emma. Mommy won't wake up.
His blood turned to ice. Emma, where are you?
The motel. Room 7.
Mommy's on the floor, and she's breathing funny, and Michael's crying, and I don't know what to do. I'm coming, right now. Stay on the phone with me, okay? Don't hang up. He was already running to his bike, gesturing frantically at Johnny and the others. Emma, is your mom breathing?
Yes, but it sounds wrong, like she can't get enough air, and she won't open her eyes.
Marcus kicked his bike to life. I'm 2 minutes away, baby. 2 minutes. You're being so brave. Keep talking to me.
I'm scared.
I know. I'm scared too. But we're gonna help your mama, okay? Is the door unlocked?
I don't know how to unlock it.
That's okay. I'll figure it out. Just stay with your mom. Talk to her. Tell her help is coming. He covered the 2 blocks to the motel in less than 60 seconds, his club brothers right behind him. Room 7. He hammered on the door. Emma, it's Marcus. Step back from the door. One kick and the cheap motel lock gave way. The sight inside stopped his heart. Sarah was collapsed on the floor between the beds, her body curled on its side, breathing shallow and labored. Her face was gray. Her lips had a blue tinge. Emma stood in the corner clutching the white rabbit, tears streaming down her face. Michael was in his carrier on the bed, screaming. Marcus drops to his knees beside Sarah. Call 911, he shouted at Johnny, who was already dialing. He checked her pulse. Weak. Rapid. Her skin was clammy and cold. Sarah, can you hear me? No response. He looked at Emma. When did this happen? When did she fall?
I don't know. I was playing with Angel, and then I heard a sound, and she was on the floor.
Marcus's mind raced. The symptoms, the timing, the fact that she'd been starving herself for weeks while nursing a newborn. Did your mom eat dinner? The food I bought her? Emma shook her head, fresh tears falling.
She gave it all to me. She said she wasn't hungry.
Of course she did. Of course she gave every last bite to her daughter while she stayed empty. And now her body was shutting down. Ambulance is 5 minutes out, Johnny said from the doorway. Marcus pulled Sarah carefully onto her side, making sure her airway was clear. He grabbed a blanket from the bed and covered her, trying to bring warmth back to her freezing skin. You're not doing this, he told her unconscious form. You're not leaving those kids. Not tonight.
Not like this. Emma crept closer. Is Mommy dying? The question was so small, so terrified, so heartbreakingly familiar. Katie had asked him the same thing once about her grandmother. He'd lied and said no. 3 hours later, his mother passed away. Katie never fully trusted his promises after that. He wouldn't lie to this child. I don't know, baby, but I'm gonna fight like hell to make sure she doesn't. You hear me? Your mama's a fighter. She's been fighting for you every single day. Now it's our turn to fight for her.
Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Emma climbed onto the bed next to Michael's carrier and picked up her baby brother. She held him the way she'd probably seen her mother do it hundreds of times. Carefully, protectively, like he was made of glass and love.
It's okay, Michael, she whispered through her tears. The scary angel is gonna save Mommy. You'll see. He promised. And in that moment, Marcus understood what he'd been running from for 8 years. It wasn't his failure as a father that haunted him. It was the fear that his promises meant nothing, that his love wasn't enough, that trying and failing was worse than never trying at all. But looking at Emma holding her brother, looking at Sarah fighting for every breath, looking at his club brothers crowded in the doorway ready to help however they could, he realized trying was everything. The ambulance pulled up, lights painting the motel room in alternating red and blue. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and questions Marcus barely heard. They loaded Sarah onto a stretcher. One of them, young guy, maybe 25, looked at Marcus. You her husband? No, What was he? A stranger? A helper? A man trying to outrun his own ghosts? I'm her friend. She's severely malnourished, dehydrated. Looks like she hasn't eaten properly in weeks. We're taking her to County General. I'm coming with you. Family only. Those kids are 5 and 3 months old. Their father's dead. Their mother's unconscious. I'm the closest thing to family they've got right now, so unless you want to call child services and put them in the system tonight, I'm coming with you. The paramedic looked at Emma and Michael, then back at Marcus. Get in. Marcus scooped up Emma in one arm, grabbed Michael's carrier with the other. Johnny stepped forward. We'll follow in the truck. Bring supplies, whatever they need. Thanks, brother. The ambulance doors closed, and they were moving. Sarah hooked up to IVs and oxygen. Emma pressed against Marcus's side like she'd known him her whole life instead of 3 hours. Mr. Marcus? Yeah, baby? You said you failed your little girl, but you're not failing us. You're saving us. His vision blurred. Your mama's the one who's been saving you all along. I'm just catching you before you fall. Daddy used to say that angels catch people when they fall. I thought he meant in heaven. But maybe he meant here, too. Marcus looked down at this 5-year-old child who'd lost her father, was losing her home, had just watched her mother collapse, and still found a way to believe in angels. Yeah, he said, his voice breaking. Maybe he did. The hospital loomed ahead, bright and sterile and full of questions Marcus didn't have answers to. But he had something better than answers. He had a phone full of contacts, a club full of brothers, and a promise he'd made to a little girl who asked if tomorrow would come. Tomorrow was coming, and for the first time in 8 years, Marcus was going to be there when it arrived. The emergency room doors slid open with a mechanical hiss that sounded too clinical for the chaos inside Marcus's chest. Nurses swarmed the stretcher, voices clipping short medical terms he didn't understand. Sarah disappeared behind curtains and urgent hands, while Marcus stood frozen in the bright fluorescent hallway holding 2 children
who weren't his. "Sir, I need you to step back." A nurse with kind eyes and an immovable expression blocked his path. "Family only beyond this point." Marcus started, then stopped. What was he? "These are her kids. I'm all they've got right now." "Are you the father?" "No." "Legal guardian?" "No." "Then I'm sorry, but you'll need to wait in the lobby. We'll update you when we can." Emma's grip on his neck tightened. "Don't leave us."
The nurse's expression softened, but didn't change.
"Sir, please." Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to use his size and his voice and his club patch to intimidate his way through, but Emma was shaking against him, and Michael was starting to fuss, and everything his instincts told him to do would only make things worse. "Fine." He turned toward the waiting area, each step feeling like retreat, like failure. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Plastic chairs lined the walls, half of them occupied by people with their own emergencies, their own desperate waits. Marcus chose a corner where he could see the doors and sat down carefully, Emma still clinging to him, Michael's carrier balanced on his knee. "Is Mommy gonna die?" Emma whispered. "No." "You said you wouldn't lie to me." Marcus closed his eyes. This kid was too smart, too aware, too everything a 5-year-old shouldn't have to be. "I don't think she's gonna die. The doctors here are good.
They're gonna help her.
But you don't know for sure." "No, baby, I don't know for sure. I wish I did." Emma pulled back enough to look at his face. "My daddy died in a hospital. Mommy said the doctors tried really hard, but sometimes trying isn't enough." The words hit Marcus like shrapnel. Your daddy was right about trying. It's all we can do. Try hard and hope harder. "Do you pray?" "Not in a long time." "Maybe you should start again." Emma's voice held that simple child logic that made complicated things sound obvious. "Mommy says God listens better when lots of people ask." Marcus didn't believe in God, not after Iraq, not after losing Katie, not after watching good people suffer while bad ones prospered. But looking at this little girl who'd lost her father and was losing her mother and still believed prayers mattered, he couldn't say that out loud. "Then you pray," he told her. "And I'll try." Michael started crying, that hungry wail Marcus was learning to recognize. He checked his watch. Nearly 1 a.m. The baby needed formula, needed changing, needed things Marcus didn't have and didn't know how to get. His phone buzzed. Johnny. "We're 10 minutes out. What do you need?" "Everything. Formula, diapers, maybe something for Emma to eat. She's scared and I'm..." His voice cracked. "I don't know what I'm doing, Johnny." "Yeah, you do. You're keeping those kids safe until their mama can do it herself. That's what you're doing." "The hospital won't let me back there. They're asking about family, about legal guardianship, if social services gets involved." "They're not taking those kids. We won't let them." "It's not up to us." "Then we make it up to us." Johnny's voice hardened with determination. "You hold down the fort. We're bringing reinforcements." The call ended, and Marcus sat there trying to figure out how to feed a 3-month-old baby with no supplies and no experience. Emma was watching him with those too old eyes. "You don't know how to make a bottle, do you?" "No, baby, I don't." "I can show you. Mommy taught me in case of emergencies." Her voice got smaller. "She said emergencies happen, and I needed to know how to help." What kind of life had this child been living that her mother taught her emergency baby care at 5 years old? Emma climbed down from his lap and reached for Michael's carrier. "First, you have to warm the water, not too hot. Then you add the powder and shake it. Not too hard or it gets bubbles, and that makes Michael's tummy hurt."
She recited the instructions like a script she'd memorized, and Marcus felt something break inside him. This wasn't childhood. This was survival training.
A woman approached them, mid-40s, official-looking, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression Marcus had learned to distrust on sight.
"Excuse me, are you here with Sarah Mitchell?"
Yes.
"I'm Jennifer Parrish, social worker. I need to ask you some questions about the children."
Marcus's stomach dropped. "They're fine. They're with me."
"And you are?"
"A friend."
"How long have you known Ms. Mitchell?"
Marcus glanced at Emma, who'd gone very still. "A few hours." Jennifer's expression shifted.
"I see. And you have 2 minor children in your care that you've known for a few hours. Do you understand how that looks?"
"I understand their mother collapsed and they needed someone. I was there."
"Can you verify your relationship to these children?"
"I already told you."
"Any family member we can contact? Father? Grandparents?"
"Father's dead. Mother, Sarah's mother. I don't have contact information." "Then I'm going to need to place these children in protective custody until we can verify."
"No."
Emma's voice was small but firm. She pressed herself against Marcus's leg.
"We're staying with Mr. Marcus. He's our angel."
Jennifer crouched down to Emma's level.
"Sweetie, I know this is scary, but we need to make sure you're safe. We are safe. He bought us dinner. He got Michael formula. He called the ambulance. He didn't leave us."
Emma's voice rose, panic bleeding through.
"Everyone else leaves, but he didn't leave."
"Emma?" Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay."
"It's not okay."
Emma was crying now, clutching the white rabbit.
"You said tomorrow would come. You promised."
Jennifer stood up, her expression sympathetic but unmoved.
"Sir, I understand you want to help, but without proper documentation, without any legal relationship to these children, then make it legal."
The voice came from behind them. Marcus turned. Johnny stood there with 5 other club members, all of them looking like exactly the kind of backup that made social workers nervous. Jennifer's hand moved toward her phone. "We're not here to cause trouble," Johnny said, raising his hands in a peace gesture. "We're here to help. Our brother Marcus called us because he knew these kids needed more than one person could provide. We've got formula, diapers, food, whatever they need. And we've got resources to help their mother when she wakes up."
"That's very kind, but—"
"No buts." Rico stepped forward, pulling out his phone. "My uncle owns an apartment building. I've got a lease agreement right here ready to sign. First month free, utilities included. Give this family a place to live." Danny moved next to him. "My wife runs a daycare. She's already confirmed a spot for both kids. Subsidized rate until Sarah gets on her feet." Tommy was next. "Job interview lined up for Monday. Commercial cleaning company. Steady pay, benefits, flexible hours." Jennifer looked between them, confusion replacing suspicion.
"You all just met this woman tonight?"
"We all been where she is," Johnny said quietly. "Broke. Desperate. One bad day from losing everything. People helped us. Now we're helping her."
"This is highly irregular."
"So is a mother starving herself to feed her kids," Marcus cut in. "So is a 5-year-old knowing how to make formula bottles because emergencies happen. So is a combat veteran with PTSD finally understanding what his daughter meant when she asked if he'd still love her tomorrow." His voice dropped. "Sometimes irregular is exactly what's needed." Jennifer looked at Emma, who was watching this exchange with terrified hope. She looked at Michael, who'd finally quieted in Marcus's arms. She looked at these rough men offering gentle solutions.
"I'll need documentation, all of it. Lease agreements, employment verification, childcare contracts, and character references."
"You'll have them by morning," Johnny promised. And Ms. Mitchell needs to approve all of this when she wakes up. When she wakes up, Marcus agreed. Not if. When. Jennifer nodded slowly.
I'll note in my report that the children are temporarily in the care of family friends pending mother's recovery. But if anything seems off, if there's any indication these children are at risk—
There won't be, Marcus said. I give you my word.
The word of a Hell's Angel? Jennifer's eyebrow raised.
The word of a father who lost his daughter and won't let another child lose their parent if I can help it.
Something in Jennifer's expression shifted. I have a brother who did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Came back different, angry, lost. Took him years to find his way back.
She looked at Marcus's vest, at the military patches mixed with club colors.
He says the guys who helped him most weren't the therapists.
They were other vets who understood what it meant to try to come home when home didn't exist anymore. Your brother doing okay now?
He runs a support group for veterans, helps others find their way back.
She pulled out a business card.
This is my direct number. You call me if you need anything. And I mean anything. Resources, references, someone to vouch for you with the system. Okay?
Marcus took the card, throat tight. Thank you. Jennifer left, and the waiting room exhaled. Johnny clapped Marcus on the shoulder. That was close. Too close. Marcus looked down at Emma, who'd stopped crying, but still looked fragile. We need to do better than close. These kids need stability. Then we give them stability. Rico was already on his phone. I'm texting my uncle now. Apartment's theirs by tomorrow afternoon. A doctor emerged from the emergency area, scrubs rumpled, fatigue written across her face.
Family of Sarah Mitchell?
Marcus stood up fast. How is she?
Are you her husband?
No, but I'm all these kids have right now, so please, just tell me. The doctor looked at Emma and Michael, then back at Marcus.
She's stable. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, anemia. Her body was shutting down. Another day or 2 and we'd be having a different conversation.
Marcus felt his knees weaken. Can I see her?
She's unconscious. We've got her on IV fluids and nutrients. She needs rest and monitoring.
When will she wake up?
Hard to say. Could be hours, could be longer. Her body's been running on empty for so long, it needs time to remember how to function properly.
Will she be okay?
The doctor's expression softened. Physically, yes, with proper nutrition and rest. But sir, this level of self-neglect doesn't happen overnight. She's been starving herself for weeks, maybe months. That speaks to something deeper than just financial hardship.
She was feeding her kids instead of herself.
I understand that.
But she's no good to them dead. The doctor glanced at Emma again, lowering her voice. She needs psychiatric evaluation, depression screening. We're looking at someone who potentially has a death wish, even if she doesn't consciously recognize it. The words hit Marcus like a freight train because he recognized them. He'd been there. After losing Katie, after the nightmares got worse, after the PTSD made him someone he didn't recognize. There'd been nights when not waking up seemed easier than facing another day. What does she need? He asked. Time, medical supervision, nutrition, counseling. The doctor paused. And people who won't let her disappear into herself. People who'll fight for her, even when she's forgotten how to fight for herself. She's got that now. Good. Because those kids need their mother. And from what I've seen tonight, she needs them too. The doctor pulled out her prescription pad. I'm admitting her for observation.
72 hours minimum.
When she wakes up, we'll do a full psychiatric evaluation before discharge. Insurance might fight it, but I'll pay, Marcus said. Whatever insurance doesn't cover, I'll cover it. Sir, hospital bills. I don't care. Whatever it costs, send me the bill. The doctor studied him for a long moment. You really care about this woman. I care about those kids having a mother. I care about keeping promises. I care about... He stopped, swallowed hard. I care about being the person I needed when I was drowning and nobody threw me a rope. Then make sure you're taking care of yourself, too. Can't save someone else if you're going under yourself. She left, and Marcus sank back into the plastic chair, Emma immediately climbing into his lap.
Mommy's gonna be okay?
She whispered.
Yeah, baby. Mommy's gonna be okay. Can we see her?
Not yet. She's sleeping. The doctors are helping her get strong again. Because she gave me all the food and didn't eat? Marcus's heart cracked. Yeah.
That's my fault.
No. He turned her to face him. Listen to me, Emma. This is not your fault. Your mama made choices because she loves you. That's what parents do. But sometimes parents forget they have to take care of themselves too, so they can keep taking care of their kids.
Like on airplanes? The mask thing?
Exactly like that. Emma nodded, processing. Then, quietly,
Are you gonna be my daddy now?
The question stunned him silent.
I know you're not really my daddy. My real daddy's dead. But you're taking care of us like a daddy would. So, are you gonna be our pretend daddy until mommy's better?
Marcus didn't trust his voice to answer. He just nodded.
Okay.
Emma settled against his chest.
That's good. Michael needs a daddy. He's too little to remember our real one.
His phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost ignored it, then something made him answer. Hello? Dad? Time stopped. Katie. His daughter. The voice he hadn't heard in 8 years, now deeper, older, belonging to a teenager instead of a little girl. Katie? His voice broke completely.
Mom said you called. She said you want to see me.
Yes. God, yes. More than anything. Silence. Then,
why now? Why not before?
Because I was scared. Because I thought you were better off without me. Because I believed the lie that loving you from a distance was the same as being your father.
It's not the same.
I know. I'm sorry, Katie. I'm so sorry. More silence. He could hear her breathing, could imagine her standing somewhere safe and warm while he sat in a hospital holding someone else's children, trying to be the father he'd failed to be for his own daughter.
I'm scared too,
Katie finally said.
I'm scared you'll leave again. I'm scared you'll promise to stay and then disappear. I'm scared...
Her voice cracked.
I'm scared I'll love you again and you'll break my heart again.
I know. I'm scared of the same things. But Katie, I'm here now. I'm trying. He looked at Emma sleeping against him, at Michael, who trusted him to keep them safe. I'm learning that trying is everything, that showing up is everything, that tomorrow only matters if you're there when it comes.
Mom said you're helping some family. Strangers.
Yeah.
Why?
Because a little girl asked her mama if eating today meant being hungry tomorrow. And I realized that's the same question you asked me 8 years ago, just different words. Katie was quiet for so long, Marcus thought she'd hung up.
I want to see you,
she finally whispered.
But I'm scared.
Me too, baby. Me too.
Saturday, like Mom said?
I'll be there. I promise.
Don't break this promise, Dad. Please. I don't think I could handle it if you break this one.
I won't. I'm done breaking promises.
The call ended, and Marcus sat there with tears running down his face, not bothering to hide them.
Johnny had been standing nearby, heard everything. You okay, boss? No. But I'm getting there. Dawn was starting to break outside the hospital windows. New Year's Day, January 1st. The symbolic fresh start everyone talked about, but rarely achieved. Marcus looked at Emma and Michael, at his club brothers waiting for orders, at the hospital where Sarah fought her way back to consciousness. Tomorrow had come, and for the first time in 8 years, he was exactly where he needed to be. Sarah opened her eyes to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of machines she didn't remember being connected to. Her mouth tasted like cotton and failure. Her body felt heavy, disconnected, like it belonged to someone else. You're awake. She turned her head slowly. Marcus sat in the chair beside her bed, Emma asleep in his lap, Michael's carrier on the floor beside him.
He looked exhausted, his eyes red-rimmed, his leather vest rumpled.
My kids.
Her voice came out as a croak. They're fine. They're right here. They've been here the whole time. Memory flooded back. The motel, the floor, the way her vision had narrowed to a pinpoint before everything went dark. The last thing she remembered was Emma's voice, small and terrified, calling for her.
I collapsed.
Yeah.
In front of Emma.
Yeah. Shame burned through her chest, hotter than any fever.
She called you.
She did. Smart kid. Brave kid. Marcus shifted Emma slightly in his arms. She knew how to make bottles. Said you taught her for emergencies. Sarah closed her eyes, tears leaking out.
I never wanted her to see me like that. I never wanted...
I know. But she did see it. And now we deal with what comes next.
What comes next is you leave, and I figure out how to get my kids back from social services.
Social services isn't taking your kids.
They will.
Once they know I'm homeless, once they know I can't. You're not homeless anymore. Marcus's voice was firm. Rico's got an apartment ready. First month free. Danny's wife has spots at her daycare. Tommy set up a job interview for Monday. You've got resources now, Sarah. You've got people. She stared at him, trying to process words that didn't make sense.
Why would they do that? They don't know me.
They know what it's like to need help and not get it. They know what it's like to be drowning. And they know that sometimes the only difference between surviving and going under is whether someone throws you a rope.
I can't pay them back.
Nobody's asking you to pay them back. They're asking you to survive. They're asking you to be there for your kids. They're asking you to accept that you're worth saving, even when you don't believe it yourself. The heart monitor started beeping faster as Sarah's anxiety spiked. A nurse appeared almost instantly, checking vitals, adjusting IVs.
You need to stay calm, Ms. Mitchell. Your body's been through significant trauma. Your kids are fine.
The nurse's voice was kind but firm.
They've been very well cared for. Now we need to focus on caring for you.
After the nurse left, Sarah looked at Marcus again.
How long have I been here?
18 hours.
18.
She tried to sit up, couldn't.
I need to get out of here. The hospital bills alone.
Already handled.
You can't just pay my medical bills.
I can, and I did. End of discussion.
This isn't your problem.
You're right. It's not my problem. Marcus's voice got quieter, more intense. It's my second chance. My daughter asked me 8 years ago if I'd still love her tomorrow. I said yes. And then I disappeared for 2,847 tomorrows. Your daughter asked you about tomorrow, and you tried so hard to make it come that you almost didn't make it yourself.
I can't fix what I did to Katie, but I can make sure Emma and Michael don't lose their mother because she forgot she matters too.
Sarah's tears fell harder now.
I just wanted them to eat. I just wanted them to have something.
I know, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't save them if you're dying yourself.
I wasn't trying to die,
weren't you? Marcus's eyes held hers. The doctor said another day or two and we'd be having a different conversation. You gave everything to your kids until there was nothing left. That's not love, Sarah. That's slow suicide with good intentions. The words hit like a slap because they were true. Sarah had been running on fumes for so long she'd convinced herself the emptiness was normal, that mothers were supposed to disappear into their children's needs, that her own survival was optional.
I don't know how to accept help,
she whispered. Then learn, starting now. Emma stirred in Marcus's lap, her eyes opening slowly.
When she saw her mother awake, her face lit up with relief so pure it hurt to witness.
Mommy! Hey, baby. Sarah tried to smile. I'm okay.
Emma climbed carefully onto the hospital bed, mindful of the IV lines, and pressed herself against her mother's side.
You scared me. I know. I'm sorry. Mr. Marcus said you forgot to take care of yourself because you were too busy taking care of us. He's right. Are you going to remember now?
Sarah looked at Marcus over Emma's head.
Yeah, baby. I'm going to remember.
The door opened, and Johnny walked in carrying coffee, followed by Rico, Danny, and Tommy. They filled the small hospital room with their presence, these rough men who'd decided she was worth saving. You look better than you did last night, Johnny observed.
That's a low bar, Sarah said weakly.
Rico stepped forward. Got the keys to your apartment right here. It's small, 1-bedroom, pull-out couch, but it's clean and warm and it's yours.
I can't.
You can, Danny cut in. And Maria wants to meet you tomorrow.
She says any mother who'd starve herself to feed her kids is exactly the kind of person she wants working with children. The job interview's Monday at 10, Tommy added. Commercial cleaning company. Not glamorous, but it's steady. Benefits kick in after 90 days. Sarah looked at these strangers who'd become something else overnight.
Why are you all doing this?
Because Marcus asked us to, Johnny said simply. And because he don't ask for much. When he does, it matters. Also because we've all been broke and desperate at some point, Rico added, and we remember who helped and who walked past. The doctor came in then, clipboard in hand, expression professional but concerned. Ms. Mitchell, we need to discuss your treatment plan.
Can we do this later?
No, we do this now. The doctor glanced at the bikers. Privately. Marcus stood up. We'll wait outside. But Emma clung to her mother.
I want to stay with Mommy. Baby, the doctor needs to talk to me alone. Is she going to take us away?
Emma's voice went high with panic.
Is she going to say we can't stay together?
No, the doctor said firmly, crouching to Emma's level.
Nobody's taking you anywhere. I just need to talk to your mama about how we're going to help her get healthy again. That's all. I promise.
Emma looked at Marcus for confirmation. It's okay, he told her. Come on, let's go find Michael a bottle. Your mama will be right here when we get back. They filed out, and Sarah was alone with the doctor and her own failures. You have severe malnutrition, anemia, and signs of prolonged stress trauma, the doctor said, without preamble. I'm also concerned about your mental health. The level of self-neglect we're seeing suggests depression,
possibly PTSD from losing your husband. I'm fine. You collapsed from starvation while trying to care for an infant. You're not fine.
The doctor's voice softened. Sarah, I'm not judging you. I'm trying to help you. But I need you to be honest with me. Have you thought about hurting yourself?
No.
Have you thought about your children being better off without you? Sarah's silence was answer enough. I thought so. The doctor made notes. I'm requiring counseling as part of your discharge plan. Weekly sessions, minimum. If you miss appointments, I'm obligated to report to Child Services. Understand?
Yes.
And you need to eat. 3 meals a day, no skipping, no giving it all to your kids. If you can't do that, we keep you here longer.
I'll eat.
Promise me.
I promise.
The doctor studied her. Those people outside, are they trustworthy?
I think so. I don't really know them.
They spent all night here making phone calls, arranging housing, setting up job interviews. They paid your hospital bills. That man, Marcus, hasn't left this room except to take care of your children. She paused. In my experience, people don't do that for strangers unless they're either saints or stalkers. Which do you think they are? Sarah almost smiled.
Saints, I think. Scary ones.
Then let them help you. Because the alternative is your children watching you slowly die from trying to be everything they need. And that's not love, Sarah. That's trauma in progress. The words settled heavy and true. Sarah nodded, crying again, because breaking down seemed to be all she did lately. When the doctor left, the bikers came back in. Marcus handed her a cup of water. The doctor talked to you about counseling?
Yeah.
You gonna go?
Do I have a choice?
You always have a choice, but some choices are smarter than others. Sarah drank the water, buying time.
I don't know how to do this. Accept help, I mean. I've been alone for so long.
Then it's time to learn you're not alone anymore.
3 days later, Sarah stood in her new apartment holding Michael while Emma ran from room to room shouting about having her own space. It wasn't much. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom that had seen better days. But it was warm and safe, and theirs. Rico had left groceries. Danny's wife, Maria, had dropped off a care package with diapers, wipes, toys for Emma. Linda from the diner had brought casseroles and her phone number with instructions to call if Sarah needed anything, anytime. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, watching Sarah take it all in. "You okay?" he asked.
I don't know. I keep waiting for someone to tell me this is a mistake, that I don't deserve this.
You don't get to decide what you deserve. You just get to decide what you do with what you're given.
When did you get so wise?
About 18 hours ago, when I watched you almost die and realized I'd been dying slowly for 8 years myself. He pushed off the doorframe. I gotta go. Meeting my daughter tomorrow. Need to figure out what to say to her.
Marcus.
Sarah set Michael in his carrier and walked to him.
Thank you. For everything, for not giving up on us.
Thank you for letting me try to be better. He left, and Sarah stood in her new apartment with her children and cried. But this time the tears felt different. Like relief. Like hope. Like maybe tomorrow really would come. The job interview went better than expected. The manager, a no-nonsense woman named Carla, looked at Sarah's resume gaps and asked one question. Can you show up on time and work hard?
Yes.
Good. You start Wednesday. 3 months passed in a blur of work and daycare drop-offs and counseling sessions that hurt more than Sarah expected, but helped anyway. She learned to eat regular meals, learned to ask for help when she needed it, learned that being a good mother meant being a whole person, not just a martyr. Emma started kindergarten.
made friends.
Stopped asking if they'd be hungry tomorrow.
Michael grew chubby and healthy, hitting milestones the pediatrician celebrated with genuine joy. And Sarah learned to breathe without her chest aching, learned to wake up without immediately calculating what she couldn't afford, learned that surviving and living weren't the same thing. Marcus came by once a week, usually bringing groceries he claimed were extras, and Emma absolutely believed he'd bought specifically for them. He told her about Katie, about the first meeting that had been awkward and painful and necessary. "She's angry," he'd said. "She's got every right to be, but she's talking to me. That's something." Now, 3 months later, Sarah walked into the truck stop diner that had changed her life, Emma skipping ahead, Michael on her hip. It was New Year's Eve again, exactly 1 year since the night everything fell apart and rebuilt itself.
Marcus was already there, sitting in a booth with a teenage girl who had his eyes and his stubborn jaw. Katie. "Sarah!" Marcus waved them over. "This is my daughter, Katie. Katie, this is Sarah and Emma and Michael."
Katie studied them with the suspicious wariness of a teenager who'd been hurt before.
"You're the family my dad helped. He saved us,"
Emma said matter-of-factly.
"We were hungry and scared, and he bought us dinner and got Mommy to the hospital and gave us a home. He's our angel."
Katie's expression softened just slightly.
"He told me about you, about your question." "Which question?" "If you ate today, would you be hungry tomorrow?" "Oh."
Emma thought about this.
"I don't ask that anymore. We have food now, and if we don't, people help. That's what angels do." "He's not an angel,"
Katie said, but there was less edge to it.
"Maybe not,"
Emma agreed.
"But he's close enough."
Sarah watched Marcus watching his daughter, saw the careful hope in his eyes, the fear that this fragile reconnection might shatter.
"Your dad's a good man," Sarah told Katie quietly. "He showed up when nobody else did. He kept promises when he didn't have to. He gave us tomorrow." Katie looked at her father.
"Mom says you've been different lately, calling more, showing up, actually trying?"
"I am trying," Marcus said. "I know that doesn't make up for 8 years, but it's all I've got."
"It's a start,"
Katie said carefully. Then to Emma,
"You really think he's an angel?" "A scary angel, the best kind. Because he scares away bad things and helps with good things."
Katie almost smiled.
"That's actually pretty accurate."
The diner door opened and a young woman walked in, probably mid-20s, carrying a toddler on one hip and holding another child's hand.
Sarah recognized the look instantly. That desperate calculation, that exhausted fear, that hollow-eyed awareness that everything was falling apart. Emma saw it too. She tugged on her mother's sleeve.
"Mommy, that lady looks like how you looked. Before."
Sarah's heart clenched.
"Yeah, baby, she does."
The woman sat down at a table, ordered water for all of them, stared at the menu like it was written in a language she didn't understand. Sarah stood up. "Where are you going?" Marcus asked.
"Paying it forward."
She walked to the woman's table, Emma following close behind.
"Excuse me,"
Sarah said gently.
"I don't mean to intrude, but are you okay?"
The woman's eyes filled with tears immediately.
"I'm fine. We're fine." I said that too, about a year ago, in this same diner, right before I collapsed from trying to be fine when I was anything but.
The woman stared at her.
My name's Sarah. This is Emma. We've been where you are. Let us help."
"I don't need..." Emma stepped forward, holding out her white rabbit.
This angel gave me this when I was scared. It helped. You can borrow it for your little girl if you want." The woman broke completely, and Sarah sat down beside her, wrapping an arm around someone else's shaking shoulders, whispering the same words Marcus had said to her a year ago. "You're not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. Tomorrow's coming, and we're going to make sure you're here to see it." Marcus watched from across the diner, Katie beside him, as Sarah became the person who'd saved her by saving someone else. "Is this what you do now?" Katie asked quietly. "Help people?" "We all do. The whole club. We look for the ones drowning, and we throw them ropes." "Because someone threw you a rope?" "Because someone didn't. And I almost lost everything because of it, including you." Marcus looked at his daughter. "I'm not going to waste the second chance I've been given, Katie. Not with that family, not with you, not with anyone." Katie was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the table and took her father's hand. "Okay, Dad. Let's see if you can keep that promise." "I will. Every tomorrow that comes, I'll be there." Linda, the waitress, brought over plates of food, setting them in front of the struggling mother without being asked, winking at Marcus, who was already reaching for his wallet. Emma returned to their booth, leaving the rabbit with the other little girl, and climbed up beside Katie. "Do you know what I learned?" Emma asked the teenager. "What's that?" "That angels don't have to be perfect. They just have to show up. And they have to keep showing up, even when it's hard. That's what makes them angels." Katie looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and Sarah saw the moment something shifted. Not forgiveness yet, maybe not for a long time, but possibility. The chance that broken things could be repaired, the fathers could come back, that tomorrows could be different than yesterday's. The diner filled with people as midnight approached, strangers counting down to a new year, to fresh starts and empty promises. But in one booth, a father and daughter sat together after 8 years apart. At another table, a desperate mother accepted help from someone who understood. And throughout the room, a web of second chances and kept promises connected people who'd learned that kindness wasn't weakness, and accepting help wasn't failure. When midnight struck and everyone cheered, Emma whispered to her mother, "Did tomorrow come, Mommy?" Sarah held her daughter close, looked at Michael sleeping peacefully, met Marcus's eyes across the diner. "Yeah, baby. Tomorrow came, and it brought hope with it." Because sometimes the question that changes everything isn't about having all the answers. Sometimes it's about being brave enough to ask, vulnerable enough to hear, and human enough to respond. One question from a 5-year-old child had shattered a biker's armor and cracked open a mother's pride, and reminded everyone who witnessed it that we're all just one bad day away from needing someone to catch us when we fall. And the only thing that separates surviving from drowning is whether someone reaches out a hand and refuses to let go, even when, especially when, we insist we're fine. Marcus had learned that keeping promises to tomorrow meant showing up today. Sarah had learned that saving her children required saving herself first. Emma had learned that angels come in unexpected packages. Katie had learned that second chances don't erase the past, but they can rebuild the future. And every person in that diner, whether they knew it or not, had learned that one moment of compassion creates ripples that spread farther than anyone can see. The Hells Angels rode out at 1 a.m., their engines rumbling into the new year. But Marcus stayed behind with his daughter, teaching her the most important lesson he'd ever learned. That tomorrow isn't a promise, it's a choice. And you have to choose it again every single day. One brave decision at a time. One kept promise at a time.
One moment of showing up when it would be easier to disappear. And that is how one devastating question on New Year's Eve became the answer that saved multiple lives, healed old wounds, and proved that the scariest-looking angels sometimes have the softest hearts. And that true strength isn't about never falling down. It's about standing back up and then reaching back to help the next person climb out of the darkness into the light of a tomorrow that finally came.